Zoom. He wants to get in the act.
Okay.
So cute. So cute. All right. It's just taking a second to set up the meeting for YouTube Live. And there we go.
He wants to get in the act. Good
There we
morning.
are.
Welcome back home, Myrna, from your
All right, it's just
wonderful, fabulous Montego, Jamaica vacation.
It was lovely, really. Well, I think the nice thing was that hearing that it was raining every day here in Florida, and we experienced extraordinary weather there. I mean, it was 78 to 82 every single day. It was just wonderful. No rain. So, it was a nice, it added to the vacation. And vacations are nice.
Yeah.
Get away from it all. You're in the moment.
And you look so well rested and wonderful.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah.
And it gave me a chance to do some reading as well. And you know what I did? I read Dolores Cannon's book, Jesus and the Essenes. And that was very interesting. It really was. It was an eye-opener because it really compares to the Course in Miracles. So that was, also something that I became very interested in because of that, comparing it. So you and I have talked about the Essenes. So we can talk about the Essenes a little bit. We can talk about today's lesson. Today's lesson is also something that I've been looking into.
Lesson 178.
Yeah, we can go into the Essenes a little bit after this. But today's lesson, God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. So here we bring God into the picture, and God, the purpose of this lesson really is to undo the denial of the thought of God. That's what I get from this. And the Course says that we can experience heaven. I turn to a page where it says we can't experience heaven. Well, how can we experience heaven if we deny God? So that's really something that I became very much aware of. Not that I haven't been aware of that. I mean, I like to think that I don't deny God, but being a half ego and partly ego and spirit as well, the part of me that perhaps denies God is the ego part of me. Okay, I don't even like to think of myself as an ego anymore because I've come such a long way since the ego dominated my thoughts, and I have studied long and hard to become aware of my true self. And the true self is the part of me that became identified with God. And once we do that, you do experience heaven, and that's where the miracles come in. And the Course says, that again, we have to really experience more certainty, and by keeping at it. And certainty comes from when we experience what we ask for. Certainty comes when we experience something that we get that we've asked for, and that's really how the certainty really comes into play. And, the Course in Miracles through all these years had made me aware of the miracles that we're entitled to think about that. We're entitled to miracles. And that is the identification of God, that moment of connection. And I was talking to Susan Michelle yesterday. I did a Zoom session with her here on Pal Talk. And she tells me that she meditates every single morning. I kind of admired that because I really don't meditate. I meditate once in a while. I definitely speak to Jesus an awful lot. And maybe that's somewhat of an experience of meditation. It certainly starts my day off very well. I get into the lesson of the day every morning. So for each of us, it's a path. That's what it is. It's a path that we travel. And, I think that we finally realized too that when we experience God, that that the ego was really an illusion. That's when we can separate the two. And I asked myself, how did I feel then, as opposed to how I feel now? And the word that comes into play in my mind is peace. And we can't see the real world really because we don't want to. And that's really what it comes down to. We don't want to. We deny it. We don't want to. We're too engrossed with the ego's misperceptions. And, the Course, in fact, Jesus in the Course uses the words, deny not heaven. It is yours today, but for the asking. Nor need you perceive how great the gift, how changed your mind will be before it comes to you. As to receive, and it is given you, conviction lies within it. Till you welcome it as yours, uncertainty remains. Yet God is fair. Sureness is not required to receive what only your acceptance can bestow. And that sentence really pulled me in. I loved it because God is fair. God doesn't really expect us to do what we're not ready to do. And if we're not sure yet, well, we still can receive miracles. We don't have to be 100% sure. The ego still plays a part in who we are. So I really like that sentence. It's not required. Sureness is not required for us to be accepted by God. That's what I received from that. That's what I got from that. And the ego always wants assurances. God doesn't expect assurances. The ego does. We question, well, how can I be sure I'll like it? Or how do I know I'll be happy doing a specific thing? Or how do I know I really want to make this move? Or whatever it may, whenever it can jump in and take us away from the reality and give it, because I should say take us away from love. Because as the Course says, it's love or fear. And when we're experiencing the ego and questioning and we become afraid, well, that's fear. And so we're not really in the realm of love. We're only experiencing fear. And so it's a matter of, and when we're experiencing fear, how can we be at peace? So I can honestly say that in this day and age, right now, at this time and place, I've come a long way, and peace is really predominantly how I feel. I hope it doesn't change. I hope I've attained that for the rest of my life. It didn't happen overnight. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think everything you said is perfectly wonderful. I'm going to pick up a little on the idea of what the ego is. The ego is just another belief in separation. That the belief that I'm over here and you're over there, that we're separate. I'm a body, you're a body, and of course, bodies are the symbol of separation. And of course, the love of God. Today's lesson, of course, is God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let my mind deny the thought of God. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I'm entrusted with the gifts of God. Now, I can't be entrusted with the gifts of God if I'm an ego, because the ego, first of all, can't be trusted, numero uno. But more important, the ego says, well, the gifts of God are for me. Why should I share with anyone? The idea of love is the idea of including all equally. The idea that God's will and my will is the same will. When God gives his gifts, he gives to all equally. And what is like the gift of God is, for instance, we call it the peace of God that this world has no understanding of, but that peace of God is given to all equally. So all are truly the equal, whole, complete, holy child of God, the Holy Son of God, the the extension of what God is, we are. It's one mind. So in that oneness, in that all-inclusive mind, with nothing outside of it, there's nothing opposes it. Nothing. There is no opposite in the mind of God. But of course, we made a world of opposites, things that oppose, so that the moment something opposes us, love is almost impossible, because fear comes in. And there's only two emotions. One is love, which knows no opposite, and love is what's real. And the other we made up, which is fear, which is afraid of something that's different from itself, something that is outside of itself. And of course, the Course has what I call a lot of hacks. And when I was a kid, we didn't know what hacks was, but I only recently realized that everybody knows what hacks are. Hacks are ways of doing things easier, simpler. And Jesus is always giving us more ways to use hacks in doing his 1,300 pages of A Course in Miracles. I mean, the first and most obvious hack is when he puts in the introduction to the Course in Miracles, before you even get to the textbook. He says, "Listen, I can sum up this whole course for you in 3 lines. What's real can't be threatened. What's unreal doesn't even exist. Herein lies the peace of God." Now, you can accept that as a hack and say, well, I really accept this, that only the peace of God, only the love of God is real. Nothing else is real. And of course, it takes practice to actually incorporate and integrate that into your mind's thought system. But if you could totally accept it and smile and say, yeah, there's nothing to fear, which is what's unreal, doesn't even exist, you already have the peace of God. Now, he has other hacks throughout the course. Like one of my favorite hacks, which I mention here a lot, there's nothing outside of you. This is what you must ultimately learn. Now, if I think that somebody is watching me or judging me, or they're going to be against me, or they don't like what I say, or they're going to confront me, and I'm afraid of being confronted. I'm afraid that someone, that I might say the wrong thing, and someone is going to say the wrong thing back at me, and I'll be at a war. If that's my fear, I'm actually in a world that I made up and dreamed up. That's not the world of the mind of God. The mind of God sees all the same. There's no differences. Nothing opposes it. Nothing at all. Another hack, which I love, and I kind of use it in my life. I heard you mention, the idea of meditating in the morning, but he has a way of saying, listen, I can save you 100 years of meditation, contemplation. He says this in chapter 18, section 7. I need do nothing. He says these 4 words will save you 100 years of meditation, contemplation, and trying to figure things out and trying to get things done. You don't have to get things done in a dream. I was listening to Maureen Muldoon yesterday. She gave I thought she was giving it for teachers, and I'm now teaching it, and I'm teaching Sunday morning lesson, the lesson of the day, on Sundays. And I thought she was giving a meeting for teachers, so I attended. I didn't know it was really a meeting for newcomers, people who wanted to learn about it. But anyway, she says, you can call the song of A Course in Miracles, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, merrily, 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 Life is but a dream. And that really is the song of A Course in Miracles. He tells you, gives you 1,300 pages to tell you that you're dreaming. And it's time that you woke up and realized that you're the dreamer of the dream and not the figure in the dream. Being the figure in the dream, you got to do a lot of meditation and contemplation to try and let go of your past belief system. But you can let go of the past belief system by just being here now. Into his presence would I enter now. So that's my willingness to just let go of thinking I have to do anything. Basically, as Ken Wapnick says, Jesus doesn't want you to take this course seriously. He wants you to recognize that, that once you can let go of the course and just smile, just be yourself. And I love it when Ken says, if you're just kind to all, you don't really need these fancy schmancy metaphysics. And that's what 1,300 pages is all about, learning fancy schmancy metaphysics. But when it gets down to, God created me kind, kindness created me kind, love created me loving. Just be what I am. But you have to include all equally. That's accepting the atonement for yourself. That's my only responsibility in this world. My only responsibility is to accept the atonement for myself. And he gives you a hack, a shorthand to do that in chapter 6, section 2, which is called the alternative to projection. And he says the Holy Spirit starts by seeing you as perfect. Seeing you as perfect, he extends that perfection to include, big word, include your brother as perfect too. And then he says, this inclusion invites atonement automatically. I love that. I mean, you don't have to do anything to accept the atonement. You just have to include your brother as yourself. And then he says, how else can you be happy in a world that you made to be unhappy in, except to recognize that you're not here. You're not here in a body. You're here in the mind of God, which is everywhere and includes all equally. When? Now. Now. Always now. You got to laugh. With that, I'll turn the mic back on over to you.
Yeah. I like that, what you said. I really, because that's the whole Course in Miracles. And, when you said, I need do nothing, and that really says it all. We need do nothing, just be who we are. And once we are who we are, the truth of who we are is more apparent, not only to us, but we extend that to other people just by having that feeling of peace, of well-being. And we just posted something, the words gently down the stream. That's what we need to do. Just go gently down the stream. Those words really do jump out at me too. And, that's really about a lot of desire. We want to become, what do we want to do in this lifetime? We want to live our purpose, and we're constantly questioning, the ego will question, what is your purpose? And it'll throw a million different adversities into the fold, where need do nothing is to just be the soul that you were created to be. And that's when you realize that it's all a dream, because you're never going to find true happiness by living in a world of things we need to buy, things we need to do, things we need to have, people we need to speak to. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And once we try to experience peace, if we're still involved with the ego's adversities, then then we don't really know what peace is. True peace comes from just doing nothing. I need do nothing, really. And once we don't buy into so much of the negativities that come up day by day. And that's really what it is. We buy into those negativities, and it's fearful. Once we have that negative feeling, we begin to feel fearful. And once we realize that it's not necessary, just be in love, get out of that place. And how do we get out of that place? By a knowing. And if we really have trouble with it, just recite just one affirmation sometimes does it. Today's affirmation, well, not the affirmation, but today's lesson 178. God is but love, and therefore so am I. I think if we just recited that to ourselves when we're feeling unfree, unavailable to who we really are, and it creates a little bit of fear in us. We go to that. Any one of these will do. God is but love, and therefore so am I. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. And every thing that represents itself in the realm of fear, which is not love, we're denying. Our mind is denying the thought of God. So I'd like to read a little bit from my book, a lesson, not a little bit. The lesson, my book is Private Lessons with Jesus from A Course in Miracles. And I took a year to discuss these lessons with Jesus. And when I started to, put the lesson into the computer, the day's lesson, I closed my eyes and asked Jesus, well, what should this lesson mean to me personally? And then I started to experience a lot of joy from this. The joy, I never expected it, really. It started out as something that was just an idea, and it turned into an entire book. And then I felt it should be shared. Today's lesson, God is but love, and therefore so am I. I'm sorry, let me just. Sorry about the intrusion. My dog got in the way. His ego got in the way. He wants a treat. He's not going to get one right now. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. The thought of God is planted so securely in your mind, you could not deny him if you tried. You have tried consistently by denying who you are, what you are, and that you share eternity's consciousness with all your brothers and sisters. The dramas and distractions in the world keep you distanced from his love and his oneness. Yet when you sit in stillness and listen quietly, he comes to you. For in those moments, you are not denying him, but believing in him. You cannot deny that you are pulled into a wave of love so great, everything else in the world seems small and insignificant by comparison. The only thoughts that are real are the ones which bring you peace, love, and tranquility. God created you with such a great capacity to attain all of this, for those are his gifts. You are protected by every angel and all else in God's creation. Take his gifts and toss them against the wind. See how the wind returns them as they are gently blown back. His gifts could not be lost, for what God gives you is yours to keep. And that gives me that in itself. This chapter here gives me a lot of, not a chapter, paragraph, I should say, tells me really that we think that we don't believe in God when we're strictly involved with the ego's dictates. But the truth is, we could not deny God. God is there. That's what we were created from. And that's all we are. So how can we deny what we truly are? We can think we do, but we really don't. And it says that right here. We could not deny him if we really try, even if we tried. And the ego really has consistently tried by denying who we are. My ego, anyway. I can't speak for anybody else, but I think we're all pretty much connected and can agree that that here it says we share eternity's consciousness with all our brothers and sisters. And to me, that tells me that our consciousness is all one. And God tells us, Jesus tells us that in the Course in Miracles, that we are all created as one consciousness. And we can get into that as well. Earlier, let's see if I can talk about this. I told you I read the book Jesus and the ACIMs. And this was a small group of people. Actually, Jesus was an ACIM, and the ACIMs began 100 years before Jesus. So they were in effect before Jesus came into being, but he became a member of the ACIMs. And what they did was they abandoned the Temple of Jerusalem they were protesting against the way the temple was being run. And so they went into the desert away from Jerusalem, and they really went by themselves, isolating themselves, because they really didn't want, we talked today about organized religion. And Jesus, obviously, the Course in Miracles is certainly not about religion. It's about not denying God. I mean, it really has nothing to do with religion. When people say, you believe in Jesus, it's almost a condemnation sometimes. And I always say, I don't believe in Jesus. I study Jesus. And by that, I mean, I don't believe in the Jesus of the church, and that's how the Dead Sea Scrolls came about. And in fact, the scrolls were discovered in the Qumran caves between 1946 and 1956 by a shepherd boy. The Dead Sea Scrolls, one thing that stood out in my mind when I was looking over the Dead Sea Scrolls, when I saw, read a little bit about it, it said, war of the sons light against sons of darkness, the sons of light against the sons of darkness. This is what it was all about. To me, that tells me this is God versus the ego, isn't it? Sons of light against the sons of darkness. The angels will fight against the sons of light, against the sons of darkness and the forces of evil. And this will end with the victory of the sons of light. I like reading that because even thousands of years ago, they knew that eventually the victory would be light. So we have nothing to worry about, really. I feel that way. I feel very secure in that light, no matter what we think, no matter what we hear on the news, no matter what people try to instill in us in a fearful way about what is going on in the world, it really is all will be victorious, because darkness, if that's how we perceive it, can't be victorious over light. And Dolores Cannon was the author of this book. And what will happen after that, according to Dolores Cannon, is that the Dead Sea Scrolls, what she said is the Dead Sea Scrolls, when it was discovered, went undercover. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, because it was revealing more than they would have liked to be known. So the Dead Sea Scrolls explained to us, went out there to the public, I suppose, up to a certain point, and then it was taken underground. That's what I got from this. Again, what is that? It's fear. We don't want people to know, the world to become too enlightened. And that was true some 2,000 years ago, wasn't it? Fear of Jesus. That's, I suppose, well, that's something else again. We talked about that too, the crucifixion, the resurrection, and all that. And she talks about that in this book, very much so. And so, I really equate that with the Course in Miracles. It's not about organized religion. It's about recognizing our purpose, period. And we can't do that without understanding God and understanding that we were created from God, whether we want to admit it or not, or whether we like it or not. That's who we are. And what is God? God is love. And if God is love, doesn't that indicate that we too are preserved as well in that respect? So I have a very strong recognition that I was created to extend love and nothing more. And when the Course says I need do nothing, It's saying that just extend yourself as love. That's your purpose. And however that manifests is what, that my journey is really to bring out that part of me, to recognize that part of me, to acknowledge it to myself even. And I've come such a long way. I mean, I really have, over the 30 some odd years that I've been studying the Course in Miracles. And, it can happen in just an instant. It doesn't have to take 30 years. But for some of us, it's a journey. And for most of us, I think that it is. But as long as we can extend ourselves in this lifetime and embodying the understanding that we are creations of love. And so what else is there then? And that obliterates fear, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's so well said. Thank you so much, Myrna, for sharing that. It kind of has me recognize that the real purpose for being here, of course, is the world's a classroom where we come to learn lessons. He tells you that in lesson 193. All things are lessons God would have me learn. And what is it that we're learning other than the voice that we believe is our voice, which is the voice of the ego, which is not the voice of God, which is our true voice, which is the voice that I share. The thoughts that I have in my mind now are not the thoughts I share with the love of God. So when you talk about God is love, and therefore so am I, which is the theme for the last 10 lessons, God is but love, and therefore so am I. If we have any thoughts of fear, guilt, sin, unholiness, lack, loss, worry, concern, none of those are the thoughts of God. Those are the thoughts of the ego thought system. I've been talking to a gal. Her name is Scarlett Suarez. She lives in Spain, and she's kind of new to the course, and she's going through her own personal problems. But she posts on Open Minds for ACIM and NTI, and she posted something which she took from the incredible belief, which is in the Course in Miracles text, chapter 7, section 8, and this is what it says: this course has no other purpose, and purpose is everything. What is your purpose for being here? Well, you can say my purpose for being here is to live life and do good things. No, that's the ego's purpose. The course has no other purpose than to teach you that the ego is not believable and that it never will be believable. You who invented it by believing the unbelievable cannot issue that judgment on your own because you made it. You really need help in letting go of it. So it continues here. But when you accept atonement for yourself, and that's the only responsibility we have here in this world, is to accept the atonement for ourselves. It says you decide against the belief, and that word belief has a lie in the center, the lie that you can be alone. No, if I identify with a body, I am definitely alone, thereby dismissing the idea of separation and asserting your true identity with the whole kingdom as something that literally forms part of you. Now, either I'm going to learn God's curriculum, which is the Course in Miracles, or I'm going to learn the ego's curriculum, which is, the most fit will survive, and I'm better than you, and I win and you lose, which is the principles of the belief in division and separation, when as a matter of fact, love is the exact opposite of division and separation. Love includes all the same equally as one. I mean, when you talk about heaven, we have crazy ideas of what heaven is. I'm talking about myself. Well, heaven is this place where everything is wonderful. No, heaven is right here, right now. The Course tells you that. Why do you think you have to wait for heaven? But what is heaven anyway? Is it a place? Is it an idea? No, it's an awareness. An awareness of perfect oneness. Now, my idea of meditating is I kind of, a long time ago, I used to hang out in Tibetan Buddhist Zendo kind of things. And one of the things I learned about Tibetan Buddhists is they don't do closed eye meditation. They do open eye meditation. Now, open eye meditation is simply your willingness to be in this world, not be of it, but be in this world, to be aware of all that is happening without judgment. As Ken Wapnick says, forgiveness is simply looking at the ego without judgment. And when you're looking at the ego, you think you're looking at something, you know, that's invisible somewhere in the middle of your head between your ears. Really? No, the ego is this world. The ego is the idea of the belief in separation and division and conflict and lack and worry and concern and fear, attack, defense. So when you are in open eye meditation, what you are willing to do is simply be, smile at it without judgment, without thinking that one guy is right and the other guy is wrong, which we do all the time when we say, oh my, he's such an ultra conservative. He wants to take everyone's rights away. Well, what are you doing? You're seeing your brother as a bad guy. That's what hell is. Hell is you or me, us or them. I'm good, you're bad. I'm right, you're wrong. That's what hell is. Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. And with that, I'll turn this mic back on over to you, Myrna.
Right. So we don't have to die to go to heaven. Our body doesn't have to be laid down before we go to heaven. We can experience it right here. And because it's not a place, it's not a physical place, but it is a place. It's a place in my heart. It's a place of connecting with God. It's a place of now, once I get there, then what else is there really? Once I've seen the gates of hell, gone through the gates of heaven, in that respect, then what is really there to fear? So that's very true, you know, and we have to, you just used all those different, you know, examples of the ego, and it goes on and on and on. Yes, you know, and but we have to have the will to recognize that none of that is real. And how do we know that it's not real? When we suffer from enough pain, we know it's not. Then we know that it's not real. Eventually, we have to, you know, say, okay, is this what my life is going to be? More and more pain. And when I started at the beginning of A Course in Miracles, that's exactly where I was. And recognizing that, all right, there's no place else for me to go, really. I've gone to the depths of, as you say, hell, because when you're not at peace and you're in fear, you're in hell. And where else do I go? And I found that when I would, you know, that's when I reached for God. I always knew that I had a memory of God. Always, even as a little girl, you know, and I guess those memories were reawakened at some point. And I knew that that God would bail me out. At least I wanted that love that I so desperately needed. And when you can't love yourself because you're in the quagmire of the deepest part of the dust, dirt, whatever, however else we can put that. I don't know of a better way, really. But when we're in that place, you know, how can we feel the love of God? How can we know that it's even there? So we have to brush ourselves off and now become, you know, more desirous of being free and being free of fear. And maybe, you know, the ego serves a purpose in that respect, because unless we had those, been there, done that, you know, for me in those early years, how would I have known the freedom, the truth, the beauty of and the love that I can now extend, because I can now love myself. If you can't love yourself, then how can you make it true? How can you be how can you invite anybody else into that, unless you're feeling it yourself? So yeah, it took quite a bit of sorting out. The Course in Miracles uses that expression, sorting out, and then you begin to realize that what are miracles? Oh my God, I know what miracles are, because I've experienced miracles in so many ways. And all we need to do is ask for a miracle. We're entitled to those, and that's what the Course in Miracles tells us. Jesus tells us that. I absolutely feel the presence of Jesus all the time. He is absolutely somebody, a being that I can tell him anything, really. My deepest, darkest secrets, can have really been revealed to him, and the answers always come to me. And that's another thing that we don't have to call, even if you don't want to call it Jesus or God, or there are so many other terms we can use: universal love, intelligence, belief, anything really. But as long as it's something that we truly believe in and can relate to in a positive way, then we're still in the ego. The ego's playground, I like to call it.
Yeah. When you talk about Jesus, I used to look at the word Jesus, and if you use a soft, like in Spanish, that they don't pronounce the J, they pronounce it as Jesus. And I used to say, he's us. I mean, that's what Jesus is. I mean, it's not that Jesus is different than me, more than me, different than me, less than me. I'm more than Jesus. He's more than me. That's the ego. He's us is this oneness that we're talking about. The idea that you can be in this world and not of this world. It's exactly like what Ken Wapnick was saying. You're in this world, and you're aware of the things that are going on, but you look at it without judgment. You can look at all the things that are happening. The moment you judge, you're right back into the ego thought system. Well, that should not have happened. They should not have done that. There is no they. There is no this. There's no that. Neti in the Far East and in India. Neti means not this, it's not that. So only the ego wants to look at specifics. So if you're walking down the street and you see one person is better than another person, that's the ego thought system. The ego sees differences, whereas the mind of God sees all the same. It's in that sameness, in that oneness, it's in that equality that we begin to breathe as the Son of God, as Jesus, as the Christ. Who is the Christ? We are the one Christ. It's not two Christs, three Christs. There's one Son of God. And in a world of illusion, and that's what this world is, it's a world of illusion. You might say, well, what do you mean by illusion? I see mountains and oceans and rivers and buildings and people. There's no illusion. Yeah, but it's not what you think it is. It's an illusion is just not what you think it is. We thought we could replace the peace and the love of God's love with our own world, a world of, I want more, I don't have enough, I lack, I want to get. And that's what the world is. It's a world of haves and have-nots and more and differences. And simply that is a distraction from the truth of what we are. We are one. There's no more in oneness. There's no differences in oneness. There's no inequality. There's no haves and have-nots in oneness. It's all are one and the same. It's in that sameness that we remember to smile and laugh at what I used to believe, big lie, to be true. And he tells you, Do you not see that all of your misery, all your pain, suffering comes from your strange belief that you, the Holy Son of God, is powerless? Well, of course we're powerless. We gave our power away. What is the power of the Son of God? The peace of God. That's our immunity. That's why peace is the goal of this course. It isn't remembering who you are as the goal of the course. No, peace is the goal of the course. Once your mind returns to peace, you are what you're looking for. I have to, whoever this is, I have to call them later. Anyway, so my willingness to step back and say, I do not know what anything is for, which was my mantra lesson for many years, lesson 25. I do not know what anything is for, allows me to unhook from this ego thought system. Otherwise, say, well, I know what that's for. That's good. And I know what that is, and that's not so good. And that's the ego thought system. It has everything in a little small box, and it knows what the good boxes are and the bad boxes are. You can't put the mind of God in a box. It's infinite. It's eternal. It's changeless. Who is there to put a name on God? That's why lesson 184, there is no, I remember looking at lesson 184, the name of God is my inheritance. It was one of Ken Wapnick's 3 favorite lessons. The name of God is my inheritance. I remember I used to spend hours going over that lesson, word by word, saying somewhere in this thing, I'm missing something. There's a name. I must be missing it. Who was there that's going to give a name to God? God is, and then you cease to speak. As long as I'm speaking about Ken Wapnick, I posted this in a number of our Facebook groups and also on Instagram and a few other places. He talks about the miracle, the Course in Miracles. He says, this miracle doesn't wake you up from the dream. It merely shows us who the dreamer is. That's how you get your power back. It merely shows us who the dreamer is. I'm the dreamer of the dream. I'm not a figure in the dream. If I'm a figure in the dream, I've given all my power away to the cause, and I am an effect. No, turn it around. I am cause. Everything that seems to happen to me, I have asked for, and I have received exactly as I have asked. And then he says, stop deceiving yourself. Deceive yourself no longer that you're helpless in face of what is done to you. Acknowledge that you have been mistaken, and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. Yeah, because I'm the cause of the mistakes, and I was mistaken. Oh, that's all I got to do is recognize that I was mistaken. I wasn't right. That's right. He said, do you want to be right? Or do you want to be happy? Choose one. You can't have both. I'll just complete this thing that Ken started. He says, the goal of this course is not to awaken from the dream. That will automatically happen. You don't have to do anything about awakening from the dream. Once you realize that you are the dreamer of the dream. The goal of this course is to establish that we are the dreamer. And with that, I'll turn this mic over to you, dreamer.
Dreamer, yeah. And that's happening more and more with me lately, really, recognizing that it's not real. It's not real. I mean, it really is not. I used to try to say it, I say it because the course tells me to say it. It's one of the lessons, but I absolutely do that and see it. I absolutely can see that now. I think it's just finally accepting. Once you can accept that, then there's nothing else to really question. Yeah, I am the dreamer of the dream. And, the ego throws all its little, little tricks and ploys into disrupting that belief, because things happen. We may get upset with somebody. We may be annoyed with somebody who cut us off, while we're driving. Or sometimes we can't help reacting to somebody who annoys us and so forth. But I'm really able to see that, it's sometimes the ego will tell you to justify it. You justified in feeling that way, but there's no such thing as justification. And once you realize that, you're just dreaming it, and that's when forgiveness becomes much, much easier. Once you realize that if you're forgiven, if I'm forgiven by God and God trusts me, I am trusted with the gifts of God, meaning that his trust in me is limitless. It says so right in the first sentence of the Course in Miracles lesson. Then why shouldn't I be trusting of others? I mean, if he can trust me that way, and I not be trusting of others, that helps me a lot, really, because I really believe that I've been forgiven for so much that I thought that I did, never did. Okay, and felt guilty because of it, and I just go round and round in circles. And the only way to get off that wheel of consciousness, of the ego's consciousness, is to get off it and reach for the golden ring or the brass ring. Remember that on the carousel that was we were kids, and once you get that ring and realize we're off the carousel and off the wheel, then we are more apt to believe those truths, because that's what they are. And God, it says first, I turn to this lesson 166. It's really 166 is a review of lesson 178, which is today's lesson. And God's trust in you is limitless. He knows his son. He gives without exception, holding nothing back that can contribute to your happiness. So if God holds nothing back that contributes to our happiness, then we're holding back our own happiness. We are the dreamer of the dream, holding back our own happiness. And God wants us to be completely happy. And anything that makes us unhappy is not of God, no matter what it is. Yet, unless your will is one with his gifts are not received. So unless we recognize God is one with ourselves, we'll never see any of this. Once we realize that we're created as we should be in God's loving care, and that's where we are, and that nothing can really hurt us. I mean, nothing. Then the ego throws a little doubt into that concept, but it's true. And again, you realize that when you experience a miracle. And let's see. But what would make you think there is another will than his? Yeah. Is there a higher will than God's? Of course not. What would make us think us so? That's so. That's when we disregard God and just see ourselves as an ego. And if you just see yourself as an ego and nothing more, I mean, it's hard to explain that, really, but I know that because I felt it. I felt the difference. I've been there, and as I said before, it's about really wanting to be completely happy. And like you just said before, would you rather be right or happy? We fight for our convictions, and I'm right, but it doesn't bring us happiness. And, I know people that have not spoken to family members for years because they're right, and not spoken to friends because they're right. And, when you said that, would you rather be right than happy? It made me think of those individuals that can't let go. You have to let go. You have to be forgiving. And that's all it takes. You have to be forgiving. And what does the ego do? The ego, keeps us at war with others. That's really all it is. What's the ego? We're always at war with somebody else, right? If it wasn't for that, what else is there really to consider as far as the ego goes? So it always involves another person, another individual. I'm mad at my mother because 40 years ago, she didn't stick up for me in school, or nonsense, really. How much of this still comes to mind? It does. And that's what Susan Michelle calls triggers. We get triggered. And when we realize we're being triggered, to just come away from it and recognize that it's just not real. It never happened. It only happened. It didn't happen because it didn't affect us. Here we are. Here I am. So anyway, I turn it back to you. I think we're at the lesson's end.
You actually said so many beautiful things, but the last thing you said about Michelle mentioned about triggers, things that trigger you. On my card it says, "Be grateful for your triggers, because they reveal to you your mistaken beliefs." So, of course, we want to be right in this world, because we want to make God wrong. The ego basically says, "Hey, listen, poor me. What do I know? I'm like a new kid on the block. This is God's world, and God allows these things to happen. There are earthquakes, there are tsunamis, there are wars, people are dying. Where is God? Where is God?" The ego loves to say, "Where is God? I'm here. Where's God?" But that's the whole idea of I'm right and God is wrong, because if God really loved me, I wouldn't be like this. I wouldn't lack things. I wouldn't need things. But the ego sees itself as very needy and very lacking and always wanting more. I don't have enough. I need more. So in that kind of a world, there is no peace. So going back to triggers show us what it is that we believe to be true. And once you are willing to look at it, it's like Socrates said, the unexamined life or the unexamined mind is not even worth living. If you just go through life avoiding the people who trigger you, you're not going to remember the real purpose for being here. The real purpose for being here is not to avoid, but to remember the truth of what you are. And the things that are blocking the truth, the things that are coming up in the mind of the Son of God, which is darkness, which is guilt. Somebody is triggering me. Somebody's saying the wrong thing to me. Somebody is threatening me. Somebody's attacking me. That's all the darkness. But as you mentioned earlier, we are the light. So how do you get from the dark to the light? You must be willing to look at those things that block the light. And the things that block the light, believe it or not, we want to suffer. We want to be a victim, because then we can blame somebody else. The guy that cuts you off in traffic, he's just another symbol for God doesn't want me to be happy. So the guy cut me off in traffic. God is cutting me off from being a wealthy person. I can be so much more, but I guess this is my life. I guess I'm nothing because God doesn't really love me as much as he loves others. So you're looking at a world of inequality, a world of you and me and haves and have-nots. And that's why the world is an illusion, because the world of God, the mind of God, is simply the mind of we are all one and the same. Ego does not understand sameness, never understood equality. It's incapable of understanding equality. I see we're at the bottom of the hour, and I thank you so much, Myrna, for being my sharing partner. And thank you, Regis, for being here, showing the cover of Myrna's book,
Yes.
Private Lessons with Jesus. Thank you so much, Lynn. And
Thank you,
I'm very happy
Jesus.
to say that we're now on Zoom. Excuse me, all of our Zoom programs are now on YouTube, except if somebody doesn't want it to be there. But we're now being seen live on YouTube. So it's simulcast on YouTube, and the Zoom will remain. You can actually go under, it's called Gather for A Course in Miracles on YouTube, and you'll see all the, even some of the past ones with you and me, Myrna, as well as today and the future ones. Thank you so much, all. Love you all. Hallelujah.
See you tonight. It's at 7 o'clock. Well, 7:30.
At 7 o'clock.
7
That's right.
o'clock, yes.
Glorian is on. Glorian is on
Good.
on the Holy Encounter. Love you all.
All right. Love you guys. And yeah, I haven't got all the old ones put on Zoom yet, on YouTube yet, but I'm working on it. I can put 15 at a time, they tell me. So we'll see how that works.
Is it Gather Us on YouTube? Is that what it is?
No, it's Gather for A Course in Miracles.
Oh, Gather for a Course. Okay, I just wrote that down. Okay, great.
Subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe.
Subscribe, yes.
Click the subscribe button. All
Thank
right, you guys, I love you so
you
much.
too.